to Mondays with Monday, where we delve into pivotal issues shaping lives and communities with a keen focus on amplifying marginalized voices. Hey, I'm your host, E.D. Mondene. Our guest today is, Lynn Peterson, a distinguished leader in regional governance, renowned for her pivotal role as Metro Council President, guiding policies across 24 cities in Portland's three-county area with a background as Washington's former Secretary of Transportation. Lynn has been a catalyst in reshaping transportation planning and engineering. Notably, she's embarked on a congressional campaign for Oregon's 5th Congressional District, aiming to extend her vision for inclusive community development. Lynn's commitment to reshaping transportation planning culminated in the 2022 co-authored publication, Roadways for People, Rethinking Transportation, Planning, and Engineering, a testament to her dedication to transforming transportation systems for the betterment of good community. Listen, we are so excited to have you here with us today. Welcome, Lynn.
It's an honor. Thank you.
I met Lynn when I was in the office of the president of the NAACP. And the moment I met her, her willingness to come on board as a community player and support marginalized communities made me fall in love with her. And I'm telling you, I'm gunning for your husband. And she's been my big little sister ever since. You know, I'm the older. I know you can tell that I'm older. Let's jump right into this. Lynn, your work demonstrates a profound commitment to inclusive community. In this regard, how do you plan to address transportation challenges affecting marginalized groups within the Oregon's 5th Congressional District?
Oh, that's a good question. So, when you look at Oregon's 5th Congressional District, it is southeast Portland, a little bit of southwest Portland, but Clackamas, Deschutes, the urban part of Deschutes County, and Marion and Lynn counties. And when you look at the demographics there are a lot of, but not mapped like we do in the metro region, communities of color and low-income communities. And we kind of know where they are, right? But the state hasn't done necessarily the mapping like Metro has done to say, where are our number one communities that we need to close the disparity gap, right? That should be our priority. And that's how Metro has approached it. The state has not necessarily gotten to that same place. They don't have a map that every department across transportation through housing is using as a base map to say, this is where we need to close the gap on safety. This is where we need to close the gap on housing. This is where we need to close a gap on jobs and living wage jobs, right? We don't have that at the state level. So it's a very good question of what does that district need? And we do know that Marion County, Lynn County, Deschutes County, and Clackamas County have a very high population of Latino and a growing population of Asian and Black.
Yeah.
And so being able to map that and then look at what the disparity is and what measures that they want. What do they want in terms of the help, right? That's the other part of this. It's empowering community to say, this is what we need, not what you think they need, not what a typical bureaucratic solution could be, but what do they actually need and what do they mean when they say, I need access to a job?
Right. Those numbers have changed pretty quickly in the last 7 to 10 years. Those numbers have really changed. And, it perplexed me when we took the 2020 census that they were going to miss a lot of folks because of the way that they do things. And you described it adequately. I tell you what, we are in trouble when we will not and we don't have the right formulas to really reach out to our community. So I'm really glad that you're pinpointing those issues. It's evident that transportation infrastructure significantly impacts marginalized communities. How will you ensure that such developments prioritize the needs of those communities, ensuring equitable access and safe mobility?
By listening to what they need, right? And it comes down to a different set of solutions for every part of the district or every part of this region. If you go down to Marion County or Lynn County, those marginalized communities need farm working houses, right? They need homes, and those homes need to be easily accessible to their workplaces, right, which is spread out across the entire valley. So that means, well, what is the transportation system so that if they don't own a car, they might be carpooling, but what is the system in which we could provide a better way for them to get around? Or if they are living in one part of the valley and they need to get to another, we hear this in Clackamas County, when I was chair of Clackamas County, of just access to health care, because there was no transportation.
Wow.
Right, like out in Sandy.
Wow.
So you really need to talk to the people about how they live, work, and play, and what their needs are to be able to create a transportation or a healthcare system or a housing system that works for them. Because not every community has the exact same need. They all need housing, but it might be different type of housing.
What kind of strategies are you going to use to kind of, how are you going to do that?
Yeah, I think one is talking and being in community. And what I talk about a lot is that working at Washington Department of Transportation and doing a lot of work with not just the tribes, but the indigenous people of Washington State, there is a difference between, and they make it very well known, there's a difference between consultation with a big C, because they are a government.
Yeah.
Right? They are a separate government entity, and they want consultation with a big C, which means you go to them.
Right.
And I've always had that in my being, that I don't want to be in an office. I don't want you to come to me. I really don't. I want to go and see where you work, live, and play, what's important to you, what you value, and how you see those barriers before you. Mm-hmm. If I ask a tribe to come into Olympia, that was consultation with a small c.
Yeah.
In other words, you're not getting me in my place, and my place is everything to me.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. That's a big job. Are you ready for that?
Well, having overseen Washington Department of Transportation with 6,800 employees and a $10 billion budget.
That blows my mind. I mean, I'm reading and I'm going, Washington Transportation Director Lynn, you come equipped.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done elected positions and appointed positions, consulting, the whole range of looking at how to build community from every angle. And I think that's the happy place for my brain, is being able to see the same issue from everybody's perspective, so that you can find the line through that everybody agrees, yeah, I'm getting something out of that. I'm not getting everything I want out of that.
Yeah.
But I can see progress being made.
Yeah. Wow.
So spending 4 hours on the phone last night just to get the region through a very tough conversation this morning at 7:30 a.m.
Wow.
Right? I had to talk to a big range of people and hear little bits and then call them all back. And I said, I think there's a way.
Wow.
And they're like, oh, yeah, that will work.
So you have to become a master problem solver.
Yeah.
Not the Wizard of Oz.
No, there's no magic fairy dust. I have zero magic fairy dust. And I do feel like the region really wanted us to solve the chronic homelessness issue overnight when we ran into the burning building to say, we will help. We will help raise the money. We will help put the systems in place. But the system is so broken that putting the pieces back together is taking a long time. And people have been out there on the street for 5 to 20 years.
Yeah.
The issues are almost concreted in.
Yeah.
Right? And so building up trust, building up systems that actually support the actual problem, not the perceived problem, but the real problem of every individual. There is no magic fairy dust, but because we left too many people behind for the last 40 years.
Well, even though you're not the Wizard of Oz, you've got the Wizard of Oz characters. You got the Tin Man that needs oil, right?
Yeah.
And the Lion Without a Heart. And poor Dorothy don't know how to get home.
She doesn't. She's super happy about trying to, though.
See, marginalized communities often face barriers, and this has been something that is ages old in accessing resources. Can you share some strategies to ensure those communities benefit from advancements resulting from transportation projects?
Yeah, so, I've learned a lot from Metro as much as Metro has learned a lot from me. And when I got into Metro versus Washington Department of Transportation, which has a lot of federal money associated with it, we had been looking at things differently, and we've just created bigger and bigger and bigger programs. And one of them was that we knew that we wanted to go out for that transportation measure. So 4 years in advance, our staff had worked on grants to community organizations, community-based organizations, to build up capacity so that they had the ability to be in spaces where transportation and the technical and the acronyms were all known to them. And then as they built up that capacity, they were then able to turn around and compete for RFPs, for contracts to do community engagement. And that in community engagement was then done in places that are important to the community, not at Metro.
Wow.
The people that were talking were from the community and were able to, in plain language, between whatever language they were speaking, make it understood, not just what Metro needed, but what the community needed back to us. So it was a 4-year process to make sure, again, that gap in the disparity in education about transportation was met, and then build on that to be able to bring information back to us that we actually used, right? And that's the other part, is you have to have leadership that says, this isn't my solution. And that's like the single most important thing that I picked up as a young elected official from my mentor, who was the mayor of Lake Oswego. She said, never get a solution in your head. Be more concerned about the outcomes and advocate for those outcomes, because if you can find a way through to get a set of solutions that everybody agrees to, you're going to get your outcomes. Wow. But if you sit there as the leader and like, I want the road to be 4 lanes with a shoulder, like you've lost everybody. Right? There's no ownership, and you haven't actually heard what the problem is.
You have to listen to the sounds of the sidewalk.
Yes.
Wow. You know what?
That's my next book right there.
Listen to the sounds of the sidewalk. Well, yeah, you've got to. Because they speak, everything talks. But you've got to be able to listen. And this is refreshing, hearing a voice that has reason, and it's solution oriented. And it's obvious to me right now that you're not just talking trash, because you've got strategy behind this. Your book emphasizes community oriented transportation systems. I'd like you to take some time to share the considerations of strategies proposed for catering to marginalized voices and their unique needs. You've done some of that. I don't know how much further you can go, but baby, go.
Well, there's a lot of good examples from across the country now. Not enough. But it's just the beginning. So there is the Potomac Tunnel in Baltimore, where a 150-year bridge or tunnel, I believe, needed to be replaced. And the railroad owns the land that had cut through the community and divided the community and had expanded and done even more damage in the past. And now they wanted to come through, and they wanted to expand and replace the tunnel. It was going to wipe out the community gardens. It was going to wipe out homes, right? And so they went in, and the city with the railroad, and they were just like, here's what we're going to do, right? Here's our solution to our problem that we defined. And they hit, obviously, the community, who said, no, we have taken enough impact. We have lost enough homes, enough intergenerational wealth that no, the buck stops here. You are not doing this. We're done. And so it was an entire team of white professionals who are coming in to say, this is how this is going to work, right? So let us know what you think, but we really don't care, right? We just checked the box.
Well,
right? We checked the box. We had a meeting with you, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what most people do. We become accustomed to that.
Yes. And it's sad because we should not, right? And so they pushed back, and luckily there was leadership at the city and with a council that had diversity and was listening. And there was a set of professionals inside that was also of the community. And so they changed the entire team and went back and said, what do you need? What are your needs in this community? We're going to expand the scope of this, and we're going to change the conversation. Yes, we need to talk to the railroads, and yes, they do want to expand, and yes, this tunnel needs to be replaced. But this project in the end should have benefit for you, not just be an impact. So what does that look like?
Wow.
And because they trusted the messengers this time, right? But they had to start all over again. And they had to start from a negative place, which is what I talk about in the book. If you don't start these conversations right, then you lose trust, and you're starting from a huge deficit, and nobody's benefiting. Everybody's life is put on hold. No investment is being made, right? So the Columbia River crossing, just if we're going to bring this close to home, that was not done right, right? The problem statement was we need to have more capacity to move freight from Mexico to Canada.
Right.
And this one stoplight is in our way. So we need a bigger bridge, but there was no conversation about what the community that surrounds that bridge, which is a big community, what was going wrong there because the interstate was put through the community, right? You have to go back and say, we've created these impacts and they're intergenerational impacts now. So how do we scope the project? It's not just 5 interchanges. It's literally, we need to have jobs for people that pay living wage. Okay, if you need that, then we need to also get into apprenticeship programs.
Wow, there you go.
Which means you have to start way earlier, which is what they're doing with the I-5 bridge project now, right? Yes. So you're saying, listen, we need to plan for people from the community who live in this community to be able to see people like them on this project, benefiting from that project. But it takes a scope that's bigger, and it takes a longer-term commitment.
Yeah. I mean, you heard it right here. Lynn Peterson, the woman that stands with the people, you know? And that's what I'm feeling, and that's what I'm getting. Yeah. And I'm telling you, I'm ignited in my soul to know that we've actually got a candidate that wants to do the work.
Yeah, and has done it.
And has done it for, how long have you been doing this work?
30 years. I was 19.
You ain't 30 years old, girl.
I was 19 when I started in construction.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's where I got my first concussion. So if anybody wants to ask why her brain works the way it does, 4 concussions later. Yeah, 2 on the job.
You know, as a candidate for Oregon's 5th congressional district, how do you intend to elevate the voices of marginalized communities in legislative initiatives? Particularly transportation and community development?
So a lot of that work starts here at home. It doesn't start in D.C.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why the Rose Quarter project was so important to me to get it right. It's why I was the only elected who stayed at the table. Because I wanted to make sure that the problem statement, the scope, included community. And we didn't just walk away because there was so much benefit that could happen between the jobs and Albina Vision Trust actually being able to, for the long haul, be able to figure out how to use this project to benefit that ownership, right? The actual ownership of home ownership, of business ownership, and bringing back people of color into the Albina neighborhood, Lower Albina. So I didn't want to walk away from that. But it starts at home. And if I move from being a local elected official to being a congresswoman, when I do, then my criteria for helping get the federal grants, for helping set up that system, is going to be, have you done these things?
Yeah.
I'm not going to help a community if you have passed over or didn't include. You show me that you've done the work and that this actually solves the problems, and then I'm going to be 100% working on that grant for you.
Wow.
Right? But it has to be that clear.
Yeah.
And that's how clear it will be.
Well, because you can't see through muddy water.
No, you cannot.
You know, and if it's not a clear, accessible path, then you'll never be able to cross the road.
Yeah. So there's the how you build a project at home, and then there's the national narrative, right? And so we have a president and a secretary of transportation who agree with that basic philosophical value, right? There is now money in the system to rethink the interstates that cut through communities, taking away intergenerational wealth and creating that trauma and allowing for GHG carbon emissions, right? And having an increase in asthma, an increase in diabetes, an increase in obesity, because it's not safe to walk the streets. It's hard to get to the bus stop on the other side of the highway,
yes.
Right? Isolation. That's what we have done, is we've essentially isolated communities and not given them accessibility.
And that's the Black story. You know,
Yeah.
I grew up in the south side of St. Louis, and I actually watched them put the last piece of the arch in.
Did
I
you?
watched them build that thing. But then in my
And
community
engineering's happy place.
you know, there was Monsanto, there was Hoffman Steel, there was Ralston Purina, and a myriad of other companies, the coal companies, Budweiser beer, and the smokestacks from those places, just, you know, and again, there was a highway right there, and the inaccessibility was gruesome.
Every major city has a story.
The redlining,
Yes.
rather than right mapping,
Yeah.
does the trick.
Yeah.
And you're there to do the job. I
Yeah.
can see it. I can
Yeah.
feel it. You know, when I met you, we had something in common. You know, you didn't take me into an office that was full of, you know, books and leather furniture and et cetera. Your office was,
A shoebox.
yeah. And you had toys all over the place. And in my office, there's toys all over the place. I said, this is my sister. You know, Lynn, your insights are delightful and invaluable. Thank you for joining us today and sharing your vision for inclusive community development. Is there something you want to leave us with?
You know, I think we need more stories.
Tell us about that.
We need more access to stories so that we can share the barriers that people have seen, felt, right, throughout their lives in order to be able to understand how to bring it down.
Wow.
And this is not, it was not a pre-planned thought, but it was a good question. I feel like we need more people in different places storytelling.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of courage from a lot of people to be able to do that. We just had a resolution today about the Indian boarding schools and the trauma that has created, and it is still uncovering, right, of what it is really hard for our staff to keep telling those stories.
Yeah.
We need more people telling their stories, so it's not just on one or two people to continually rehash that trauma, but we need more people being able to feel safe to tell those stories. So I guess I would just say I'm committed to figuring out continuous learning and figuring out how to continually create more and more safe spaces so that we can learn from each other.
Wow. I'm in love.
Oh, but I feel safe.
You know, that's our time tonight, but I want to leave you with this. The plight of democracy is going to hell in a handbasket. And we need to pay attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
We need to be comprehensive. We need to be intentional and deliberate in our approach to handling this problem. I think that Lynn Peterson is a lady that stands with the people. We're so glad you joined us tonight for this episode of Mondays with Mondene, and a special thank you to President Lynn Peterson. We hope this discussion has shed light on the challenges faced by marginalized communities and transportation and has inspired you to be a part of the solution. Stay tuned for more thought-provoking episodes. And remember, change begins with awareness and action. And that's what I said. Good night, my people. Thank you for joining us on this episode for Mondays with Mondene. See you next time, and stay alert. Change begins with the awareness and actions of inclusive community development and is the only way to develop all and any community, but you must do your part by getting involved. Listen, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and followers. Find us on Facebook and on Instagram and all those other places. We'll do it again in a minute. And turn on your notifications so you never miss a thing from Mondays with Mondene. And be sure to follow us again on Facebook and YouTube. Bling, bling, can you see it? A special shout out to our sponsors. Poshine's, not just a restaurant, but an institution. It's located at 8139 North Denver, right here in the heart of the Kenton District. And you can expect the best soul food this side of the Willamette. Aunties and Tanties Daycare Services, Adorn Electric, they really light up your lives, and I'm grateful for your support of this podcast. You can visit me on Sunday mornings right here at Celebration Tabernacle in Portland, Oregon. Now, I want to do this. A special thank you to the technical staff, Dion, Robin, Andy, and Paul. Not just one of them is bigger than the other, and they all stand tall. These are the guys who make this podcast possible. Thanks again for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. God bless you. Hey gang, I've got exciting news. I've just finished my memoirs, and writing them was, wow, a roller coaster, but I'm glad that I did it for me and for you, and it's a way to get to know Edie Mondene just a little bit better. What you thought you knew, you didn't know. It's called From Maladies to Melodies, growing up in the South St. Louis projects, and what God has done in my life even to this day. I'm excited to share it with you. Please look for it coming real soon.
Hey, it's time for you to come to Postshine. Check out that catfish sandwich. Oh my goodness, is that the shrimp po' boy? Man, look at that chocolate chip cake. Man, I need to get over to Postshine's at 8139 North Denver right now because this food looks delicious. Or call if you'd like, 503-978-9000. And don't miss it, you'll be sorry.
In times gone past, we find ourselves making excuses so that people reminded, ooh, I've got to get home and tend to the brand new missus. I need some time alone. Can't this wait until I finish texting on my phone?